Hello everyone, welcome back to the Silver Screen Dudes, the channel where we keep cinema alive. Long love cinema. We support all cinema, blockbusters, independent art house, and today we're here to talk about one of my hidden gem favorite films of the year. The reviews on the channel now is called Day of a Lion, and I am blessed, humbled, and honored to be joined by not only the two stars, not only the two writers, not only the two producers, but the two directors of the movie. Real life twins who played sisters, Bianca and Dilara Foscht. How are you both?
Great. Hi, it's so great to be here.
It is lovely having you here, and I have a lot of questions about this film.
You've seen it, you're like, I'm all triggered. There's so much stuff happening.
I mean, the ending in particular, which we're going to get to, but yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this movie. I want to talk specifically about the opening, and this is something actually that my wife said, because I sat down and watched this with her last night, and she said, "Hon, is this a horror?" She hates horror. And I'm like, no, but I see what you're going with how this is shot. And the moment she said that, it was like, yeah, those close-ups of like the bear and the way that you've got these slow lumbering shots going over the stairs and the wig coming on the sister who's clearly got cancer. It is shot like a horror. What was it that it compelled you to kind of shoot the opening that way?
There was a lot going into it. I mean, we built the whole script almost like a theater play, so I think that's also why the shots are luring and long. And it is a psychological thriller. We're staying away from the horror, so good that you told your wife. no fear on that side. And it was based on the theater scene. So I think all these long shots, we wanted to create it like a painting almost, and an introduction, because it is, the first shots are the introduction of the house. The house is a character in the movie itself. So I think we felt like the movie deserves the character. The house deserves its own intro. It deserves its own, moments, as we have with the characters, the sisters coming into the picture.
And even before that, kind of this almost black and white-ish beginning is also kind of an homage almost to theater, because it almost feels like getting ready for it. Not only it describes the character that's coming into that house, but also the kind of getting ready for something, because it could be almost a lot of the movie is kind of up for interpretation for the audience, as you might have realized, like even in the end, was it real, was it not, and so on. So we wanted to set that up right from the start with that kind of black and white sequence.
Yeah, you did. And then obviously the characters arrive and explode. You talk about black and white, the characters sort of arrive and explode onto scene in a flurry of color.
Yeah.
Ironically, I actually thought one of the beautiful contrasts you did, just before I move on to the question, was the elder sister talking about my big red hat. Repeatedly, actually almost being childlike, but then accusing her younger sister of, architecture painting is basically what a kid does. I'm like, what is that? You're the meanie. What? Like, the characters were, I hated the elder sister, and I think that was the point.
Yes.
That was exactly the point. So with scenes like that, you must have had so much fun playing these characters. Like, despite how nasty both of them actually tend to be to each other, and especially more considering your real life sisters. How did you balance that dynamic? And indeed, how did you stay on good terms after you said cut?
Great question.
I think honestly, it really helps that we have such a positive actual relationship as sisters, because I think if you were like really bumping each other and then playing characters that are bumping at each other, I think that would have been really toxic after. But when we were writing it and creating those characters, we were just so intrigued by these flawed characters. So I think that's where the interest came from. And I feel like you get into it when you play it, like it gives you like sometimes the itch, like it does. But I also think it helped a lot that we played it in like in a period piece kind of vein, like 1950s inspired. With the costumes, you get a full-on thing on, right? Even when you look at the character Dolly with her dresses and her jewelry and the wig and the makeup, it's so different than you are in real life. So I think there was this step of separation for sure. But I also think there's this really great filmmaker, Marie Kreutzer, who did Corsage. It's also an Austrian movie, like 2 years ago. And she was saying when she cast the lead actress who played the Empress of Austria, who is like in that movie also very spicy. She's like not a mean lady, but she kind of has her icy
kind
exactly.
of eyes.
And she was saying, she was cast the most
like humble, kind people in those roles, because you bring that kind of underneath as a layer to the character. So I think for Dilara, you know, playing in that role was really interesting to see, because in real life she's very bubbly and very, you know, like thing, but then, you know, how we wrote her, you have to bring that as a layer, you know, as a layer performance.
Very, very interesting. And so one thing I actually, and I'm hoping you can actually inform me on this, because I didn't quite figure out what it was, and I feel like it's something really cool that I missed out on in the layering of the characters. What was your intent in having them speak such a multitude of languages? I appreciate there was a certain posturing going on, and there was also, did I catch it that there was almost a reluctance from the elder to want to speak German? It was like, oh, Italian is sexier, I want to go away from German.
You got this with the first watch. It's really impressive. We usually say there's so many layers in this movie that you have to watch it at least twice or three times, if you know, to really catch all the things that we put in there. That's impressive.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we brought in all the, like, and each character has their own language. Like both of them speak English, both of them German, because they were kids, you know, from, you know, like Austria, and then moving to, you know, an English speaking country that we don't define. So that's kind of their comfortable languages, both of them. The German language is really something that connects them with their childhood. So that's something why Wanda, the brown haired one, talks more comfortable in German. It's something, an escape for her, while for Dolly, who wanted to escape from the house, from that childhood, from that, you know, history, she uses more as, you know, something negative. So that was definitely how they used it in different ways. And then, you know, Wanda studying in France, so she used French as little escapes for herself, as, you know, using it for swear words, using it for things that she felt really uncomfortable. Exactly. And then Dolly used the Italian one to build up her facade. Her all the great stories are, you know, she speaks in Italian. And it's also what we said, why we want to have different languages, because it's, you know, when you speak a different languages, you know, you are, and the other person does not 100%, you know, understands it, with the Italian and French, at least, it's, you are becoming a little bit of an alien, right? You become a little bit, there's a distance. And we wanted to create the distance with how we dress the characters and how they behave, even the physicality, but then also with languages, to have that, you know, this brick wall that we built between them.
And how someone also, like, power positions, how someone uses a language or doesn't use a language. You know, even, you know, Wanda was never in Italy. She understands some Italian, so she would, you know, answer in French when Dolly would say something in Italian, but it's still like very little. So it's also a power move to speak, you know, say something, answer to something that we just talked in English, suddenly answer in Italian, because I know that you don't fully understand what I'm saying, right? So we played with dynamics in that as well. And we thought it would be just like really fun, since this was our freshman feature. We have been, like, our mentor was kind of told us, like, this is, you know, the first movie you make it whatever movie you want to make this, because once you're going on to the next projects, once, you know, more financiers and, you know, productions and the production companies and studios are involved, there's always way more people and way more opinions in it. So he was like, make the movie that you want. And we were, you know, why not, you know, use some languages in it that are really fun for these characters.
Yeah, the language, I really thought it was a stroke of genius. And I'm glad I didn't miss anything then, because especially with Dali, because it was when you were both speaking German to each other that Dali almost allowed herself to be vulnerable. She sort of spoke German for a moment and then course corrected and switched to Italian. I was like, oh, I like that. Very clever. And speaking of Dali then, she gave me proper Blanche Dubois vibes from A Streetcar Named Desire. Like that whole facade, that posturing. I was like, but my question is was that one of the sources of inspiration for Dali? And if not, what were some sources of inspiration?
No, actually, like, now that you say it, I just played it in acting class, was doing, like, a couple of months ago, like, a Streetcar Named Desire, but I did Stella, not Blanche. But it's actually so interesting, because totally in that vein, but we didn't even consider it back then. I will say, for a lot of the writing, we took inspiration from theater pieces, but for the character Dolly specifically, we looked more into actually some animated characters.
Tell me. I'm quite versed in anime.
Okay, no, not anime, but animated, like even Disney or Pixar movies, because sometimes the characters are very hyper in those.
I think what the most reason where Dolly came from in the writing process was really what's her name, Marilyn Monroe. That was like an inspiration of, like, visually how she was intended to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that was maybe the colorful look to her. But when writing her, we just wanted to go for something really really bold and
A person bigger than life, basically.
A whirlwind, somebody that just comes in and everything else drops, like the spotlight is on that person, and also not even unconsciously really, like she's not even aware of the space she takes. I think when we were writing the skeleton draft, we were thinking more of her to be really, oh, she's gonna be the fun one, everybody will love her, and the other one is gonna be the creep that everybody is like kind of not connecting with, and then later makes sense what she's killing. And I think it really it turned out the opposite way. We are like, everybody connected more with Wanda, saw where she was coming from, also because we find ourselves in life sometimes like pushed in a corner.
But I think the dialogue helped because she's saying so much, Dolly's saying so much mean stuff on a nonchalant level. It's like insane. Every time I see it again, it's like, wow.
Yeah, the whole meat on the bone comment made me go, what is wrong with this girl? Like, Jesus, can you give your sister a break, please?
Exactly.
You've actually just made me think of something that I haven't got scripted here, just circling back to the languages thing.
Yeah.
So do you think Wanda, this is a bit meta, do you think Wanda dreamt in French and Dali dreamt in Italian?
Oh, that's a great question. I think actually, just if you ask me about the character, I would say Wanda probably dreamt in German, I think, because she is much more the child and she's much more connected to her history. And I mean, she has that conversation with the dad herself being where she slaps herself, right? All of her, but all of that is in German, right? And I think that's her level of comfort. I think for Wanda, it's definitely German. What would you say for Dolly?
I think for Dolly, it would be it could be Italian or English, definitely not German. I think she has been like blocking that out, like almost like a childhood trauma. You're like, I don't want to be like that. And even when we created the backstory for her, I felt like, how would it look like for these two Austrian German girls coming to, let's say, America, because again we didn't label it, and how did it look like? And we were like, Dolly probably from the start started to get really proficient in English and started to dress like the American girls and to fit in, while Wanda was always left behind because she stayed more true to herself. And that's the same thing when they are grown up. Dolly went to Italy, so she developed that Italian persona and like cheese and wine and stuff now. That would have been her American persona probably, but because she really finds a way to adapt really fast to where she is to get what she wants.
It's just a survival instinct, really.
While Wanda doesn't do that. And that's also why she is still at that house, took care of the dad and so on.
Very interesting. And it's also interesting that you say coming to America, but never specifically saying where the destination was. It's not something I'd actually considered. Maybe it's because of where I'm from, but for me, it was like, oh, they're clearly in the UK.
I was also like, we never put it down, and I think it really worked. And probably it makes more sense to do the UK because of travel reasons, for a small.
Well, exactly. Geronimo being Italian and her being able to get there with what seemed relative ease, like there wasn't a big deal considering she was a bit melodramatic. There wasn't ever a big deal of Dali saying, "Oh, I've traveled from afar." That wasn't really a thing. I'm like, okay, so without saying it, they're clearly in Europe, but they're not in a big city. That's the vibe I got.
Yes, and also the house. To be honest, I think even a British designer.
No, it's an Irish. It was an Irish. We shot it in Vancouver in Canada, but it was an Irish guy in 1860 building that house. So all of the interior like the bare bones, because we did production design, was like Irish influence.
Interesting, very interesting. What was the most challenging part of the production, and how did you overcome it?
Challenging. I think the kind of week or 2 weeks before pre-production, we had a lot of stuff that people dropping out. Our sound person got sick, got COVID, I think. So she was like, I'm out now for the 2 weeks. We're like, we have your sound equipment. We have you for 2 weeks. What are we going to do? We're shooting tomorrow. So we had to get a new sound person for every day. We called like the day before. Hey, can you come tomorrow? Oh, I can only do 2 days. Okay, great. Then the days after we need someone else. So
I think that's when you look at the credits, you have like sound people.
20 people.
Yeah, like 12 people or something. I think that working on a very, very like shoestring budget, I think it always brings in challenges, but also that's the beautiful accidents that are happening also, because you bring maybe people on board. Our DP brought some really great camera people on board that we didn't know before, so it was great to have that their creativity also part of it. I think that was definitely, and just in general, what the most challenging part for me also as a learning curve was, working with a very limited budget, but then, use the talent and the artistry of all the crew members, make sure everybody is like happy. As a producer of mine, that was really important. And then on the actual day on set, I think keeping calm when you have those moments of like very limited time and you got to be in front of the camera and then also be behind the camera just jumping back and forth. We come from competitive dancing, so we did a lot of like, I think we thrive on that, like high pressure kind of environment. I actually love it because I'm very competitive, but I think maybe not on a healthy basis, I don't know, but like that's what filmmaking is a little bit about. So I think that was a challenge. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, what was the budget, out of curiosity, for the movie?
It was under $1 million. It was very small. Yeah.
That's impressive. That's seriously impressive then. Guerrilla filmmaking. I love it.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about the two of you and your performances again, because I thought you were both fantastic in this film. Like, you showed such a difference in character, the two of you, as we've already discussed. One very introverted, one very, very flamboyant and extroverted, which is being used as a kind of shield to the world. But while being so different, and I'm not just talking about what I'm about to say is not just so much about the fact that you obviously do both look alike in real life and in the film, and the fact that the whole narrative is about two sisters literally coming together. Despite how different you both were, I was never in doubt that the two of you were related in the movie. It was like, okay, they've balanced that really, really interestingly. So how did you prepare to convey these emotions, like being so separate from each other while also having to navigate clearly showing that they're sisters? Because that's hard.
Yes, it's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think the sister dynamic might just come from us actually being sisters, because we've had that sometimes, that even in acting class and stuff, we would do scenes together and people are like, well, yeah, the chemistry is there. We're like, that's a given, because we've been growing up together. As Bianca mentioned, we did competitive dancing, so there's already a lot of built-in trust that you have to have. I will say, when we started acting together, that was kind of weird, because you're so you really can't bullshit the other. Like sometimes with acting, you can bullshit your way maybe into some things, but not when you have someone who knows you so well. Like there's one notion I could do, one face expression, she would know exactly, okay, that was bullshit right now. So you really got to be super true, and that's like, so you not only be honest to yourself, but honest to someone else who knows you so well. That I think is definitely something that maybe also brings that chemistry, because if you're really that true to yourself, I think that brings that sister dynamic. Because
I think if you have that as a core, as a foundation, which we used for this movie, and then build upon that for each character in a different direction. For Wanda, I used a lot of physicality of, like, we used Alexander technique. We did some great workshops here in the States as well, where like you work with animals, and that physicality, taking that over for one, it was like a house cat, like a cat that is like not caged in. So we use that a lot, and then also the costumes that are we use costumes that are very stiff for one, almost too small, so that does something to you as an actor as well.
I caught that.
But for Dolly, we had like the big dresses. There's more space to move, like or this blue coat that she has when she's now getting ready for bed, like all these things that just enhance that physicality, but also like the emotional state that we are in.
The clothes, I have to say, I hadn't prepared anything for this, but I did think the clothes were quite clever. Again, especially with Dali, who, like with Wanda, I think now that you mention it, it obviously makes sense, the tight clothing kind of being an extension of her introverted nature. But with Wanda, I was thinking when she went to have a pee at the beginning. No, not speaking as a woman, but no woman goes to pee with her coat on in her own house. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, wait, this was intentional. There's something going on here. There's no way this has been overlooked.
Yes.
So I was like, that's cool. So you kind of set that whole thing up just from her peeing in the bathroom. You're like, oh, she won't even let her guard down when she's peeing. Damn. All right. Very, very interesting.
That was also definitely, just because you mentioned the peeing scene, it was also, in the beginning where that's the first intro we really get from the character, unless, the shoes before. Like we watch her in that very private moment, and it's kind of comedic because she's in there for a long time, and she's like doing all these weird
Coming
things.
from a long travel, okay?
Yeah. No, but also like, you know, just how she, like how long it takes her to just fucking flush the toilet.
Yeah.
It's just like, it tells us so much about the character for just like those couple minutes, and that was important for us to set us up for the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Did she, the reason she wasn't using her hands, do you reckon she had a bit of OCD?
A little bit, but also like, again, it's like part of her, you know, even though it's her family house, it's like, you know, it's dirty. She's like, I'm not a dirty person anymore. Like, you know, I'm wearing gloves. I'm a different person now.
She separates herself.
Because we don't have that OCD anywhere else in the movie. But
Right,
it's really
that's why I asked.
also like a, you know, bathroom, toilet or something, you know, not you wouldn't eat from a toilet, right? So it's like already there, like she would rather use her foot or like her shoe to flush that than her actual hand touching it. So it's a little bit for her persona again, like, you know, what is pretty enough, what isn't, but not necessarily OCD.
And you were talking about animals before as well. So the one scene in the movie where I was like, where are we going with this? What are we doing? The animal improv scene. I don't know how else to call it. Like animal improv. What was the goal with that scene? What were we trying to get across? I mean, obviously, I know it finishes with her saying, "I'm a lion."
Yeah.
Why was that the kind of cutoff point for that scene?
It was a scene that was, you know, in storyline, like the complete, you know, 360 turnaround, basically. That was the scene where, yes, it is also a 360 turnaround when we have this, you know, the slap and the ripping of the contract and everything. But that scene was the first time that it was a bonding moment between the sisters, because one helps the other one. And one at the first time to really come out of her skin a little bit.
So she tries to connect earlier when she builds a dollhouse and she says, like, you know, why did you come, about the inheritance, but they don't really connect on a deeper level there, because Dolly again, you know, takes an escape with the drinking and so on, and this is then the first time where she actually owns up, and Dolly's listening because she has her boyfriend in a closet that she has to cover, right? So she's way more tuned in and cautious. And it was not really that we needed that scene for the day of the, like for the title. I think the title even changed after. Still, I'm not quite sure.
No, it didn't change, but we had it in there because of, you know, the animal experience.
And we wanted to do something where it's like, what is, you know, something that you would do maybe privately that's so awkward and weird that, you know, you just, you know, there's no one else there besides these two sisters, and something that bonded them. It's like something like just what's it called when you're just like, you know,
Cathartic.
That's it, exactly.
But also like just storyline wise, it was for the reasons why it was written in there, because we needed to have, it's so limited in space, and we knew that, you know, when writing also. So we were like, well, if he's there, we need to have we have to have a scene where we, you know, move him somewhere else, but we didn't want to have Dolly actually move her somewhere else. It's like, so how can we get these characters now in different rooms and get, you know, him somewhere else? It was this whole thing, and we wanted to have it in a kind of a whirlwind situation, and so that worked really well.
Interesting. All right, now I want to talk about some real life influences for you both. So this is, every creative says this, that they take influences not just from other movies or from plays. A lot of the time creatives get influenced by real people. So I don't even know how.
Who are these people?
Literally, were there any real stories? Were there any real stories, events, or people who influenced the writing and the portrayal of these characters?
I think just from and I feel like from an actor's standpoint, I think when you're walking through life, you just naturally pick up on interesting people around you all the time, and I feel like every person is interesting, but particularly interesting ways to walk, to, you know, how people behave, how loud they talk on the phone or not, right? All these things I think already. And I remember when we were kind of in the early writing process, so a lot of the writing happens, you know, on a dinner table. We just brainstorm and talk about the project and talk about the where the characters are going, where the storyline could go, and so on. And I think a lot of conversations happened where, like, oh, you know, I saw today this person, and it was so interesting, and it could be just a tiny thing they did, you know. They were with a stroller, and that's how they talked to the kid, and it was so awkward and so off, and then that can often, you know, trigger something else and get into something way broader for the character.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And I think also it's just, wait, what was the question again? I just lost it.
From
oh yeah, real life person, exactly. I think also when as an actor you portray so many different characters, so you kind of take away from each of them as well. And I think that also trickled into the writing. I wrote the skeleton script of the Day of a Lion, and I think because first when I was writing it, it was like a lot of it was, I thought, right, because we were like, oh, we're gonna star in it. And I was like, oh, Dolly's definitely gonna be, the character I found very choosy. It's like, I'm gonna, act in this one. And then like Wanda was more of like a shadow that we kind of filled in around Dolly within the process. And then it turned, and I think that was interesting. And then we did more and more conversation, and Dilara was like, actually, that's gonna fit much better.
Because I remember I was like, brainstorming about like, and I think you were saying like, oh, what about these two sisters, and you pitched some stuff, and then we're sitting like super long at the dinner table, and then the day after I was like, I had to think about like Dolly when you just like with tiny ideas. And then it was like, what if she's bigger than life? What if like this and this? And I wrote some ideas down, and like, samples of other characters from movies and theater and so on. I was like, and I see her almost like this and this, and I see these colors. And then suddenly she became a whole person. And that took way longer for Wanda to find who is that person.
Yeah. That maybe not answer your question fully, because you're asking.
It does. It
but
actually
I think
does.
there were no like one specific. It's not like
we don't have a
crazy
aunt,
and my aunt was like this. It was not like that.
No, I mean, to answer it in one word, your answer is basically life.
Yeah.
No, I actually really like that. So what are you always going? Yeah, you said this is your freshman movie. Exactly. What is it you're always going to remember about, or you think you'll remember about being involved with this movie? The thing that's really going to stick with you?
I think, and it's also such a great question. I think it's that it was an experiment. I think from the beginning, when we, from the writing to the actually shooting process, we never said like, oh, we're gonna make a big movie. We were like, we're gonna make an experiment. And also everybody that was on board, we said like, we're not promising anything if that's gonna, be anything at the end of the day, because we were like, art is such an exploration and we've never done it before. So we do not know as a fact that it's gonna work out the way we are thinking and envisioning it. But we do know like all the people that are on board are amazing. And again, this is, it took such a village to make this movie, so everybody, that's single person that's credited on this movie, put all their heart and creativity and talent into it. It's amazing. So I think that was always the goal. We make an experiment, we see how it goes, we see what we can learn from it. And, yeah,
I would also say for me personally, it's definitely like the experiment kind of experience, but also like we didn't go to film school, so it was very much for us.
Guilty, same here.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that.
Some of the best didn't go, Tarantino and so on, but no, for real, I think you being a student of film is such a big important thing of being a film student in a way, and that doesn't mean you have to go to school. Like you can be a student of film in any capacity of your life. And then once again, like we talked about, we have a great mentor also here in LA, and he does these educational movie nights, and it's really the best film school one can imagine. And it's not
just
really...
like also doing it. Just I think learning by doing, start before you're ready. And I think Nico, you are such a trooper on that side as well. Like you have such a broad knowledge of I've looked at your whole channel and all the podcasts, everything you have. It's like it's just such a broad level, and it's to each their own that they can invest that research or invest or watch those movies or learn on their own as a creative, as an actor, as a filmmaker, as a director, and so on. There's so much to learn, and I think it's always having that curiosity is so important.
That's awesome. Okay, big questions about the plot now.
All right.
For the people who haven't seen the movie, yes, spoilers warning right now. People who haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie, go and support Day of a Lion, go and support independent cinema. When you've done that, come back and listen to the answers that we're going to get for this particular question, because we're going to discuss the ending now. So you've been warned. Spoilers. I have some questions about that ending. I'm going to throw them at you because they kind of, when the credits roll, they might, fuck off. That's where you're ending it. Oh, sneaky. So I have my questions that came like blah, 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 into my head were: did she kill her father? Did she forge the will? Has she poisoned her sister? Is the sister just waking up and coughing because it's the sister who's got cancer? If she didn't kill her father, why was the poison there to begin with? Was she planning this for months? Was it going to be something she was going to do irrespective of how Dali behaved? I need answers.
I love that you asked every single question that we heard from separate people, like throughout the whole, process of. But you picked up on everything.
Yes,
I feel like there's no detail that got unnoticed here.
I think so. First off, the movie was designed on purpose in a way. Like even if you remember, the very first shot of Wanda is the very same as the very last shot. It was in a different room, but it's the very same setup.
And it's also really, a day of a lion. So it
It's
all plays within
24
one day. That's
24 hours. So that already was kind of part of the thing. We leave the audience a lot of room for interpretations. So we can give you our answers, but that's not supposed to be the right answers for everyone. And we love if people come to us after and say like, oh, after the knock, who is coming? Is it the boyfriend? Is it the father?
Yes,
Is it
and the knock. Who's the knock?
Yeah.
Is Dad still alive? That was more. Yes, see, there's more. I got carried away.
So there's definitely no right answer, even though we had different interpretations for it.
Yes, and we did also within the movie, the one scene in the attic when she's turning around and talks about this booth and the cockroach in the booth. We never show the audience the actual picture, and I think that's important. Yeah, we want to have our creativity work more. So you have so many great questions for the ending. So it all plays within a day, and yes, on our side we wrote it in a way that the sister Wanda took advantage of the boyfriend. She actually killed him. And, at the end of the day, she does poison her sister with the same poison she used for her father, that she wrote also for herself the will for. Because there's this one tiny, tiny line where she says at the attic in the beginning, I learned my father.
She was doing the handwriting.
Right,
I caught that. I was like, that's what made me think you killed your dad.
Yes. And it's such a small line, and 90% of the people watching the movie. That's why I said I'm so impressed what you picked up, because it takes 2-3 times to watch the movie to pick up on all the little things, because it's literally one line where she just says, I signed my medical documents, so he couldn't sign them. And then later you have, the signed document of the father. So that's, that's where we were coming from, like the backstory and the underlying message.
And also she talks about how the dad always prioritized Dolly and liked her better. Why would the will go all to Wanda suddenly, right? Yeah. So we have stuff in there, but still it's open for interpretation. The knock at the end was intended to be on one side, it could be the father. On the other side, it could be this all didn't even happen, and this was all in her head. What would happen, or what happens once?
And it's Dolly arriving.
And now she's actually arriving, right?
This
kind of how I interpreted. Actually, you tell me what you interpret.
No, the same thing. I never thought the father. It was clear to me that he's dead. There's the whole thing that she set up. But I do think
it's almost like you're foreshadowing. Like, oh my God, once my sister comes to town,
exactly.
This is going to happen. She will be like this because this is how I know her, and then all this unravels.
And now a lot of people that we, also ask or had questions about the ending, there's well, Wanda is very, schizophrenic, or she has all these traumas. She's very much in her head. So did she just, dream that whole thing, that none of this actually happened? Or is this one of her personalities? What is happening here? And there's so many interpretations. And again, we leave it open to you, really.
I actually, that Dali arriving and that was the knock on the door isn't something that I thought of, and I actually that's my favorite ending. I'm going with that now. I love that. Oh, you got me. I love it.
We're glad you found your choice.
Oh, I love it. And I love the way you've kind of left it open, the way that Christopher Nolan left the ending to Inception open, where he was like, he can be in a dream or he can't. Both work. You tell me. And I love that. Love that. All right. One question I ask every single person who I interview. I said to you at the top, the huge thing about the channel is about supporting independent cinema, freshman movies, non-studio development movies. Love all of that. Obviously, there's a lot of movies out there. No one has ever seen every movie ever. It's not possible. And everyone has always seen different types of movies. Can you share some great movies you're aware of that you think the mainstream public likely won't have seen? Could even be Austrian movies. International cinema is welcome.
Yeah. I have a couple Austrians there right away. I'll start with Marie Kreuzer's Corsage. It was almost Oscar nominated. They had some stuff happening then, but didn't get Oscar nominated. But it was an incredible movie. It's about the Empress of Austria, but not as we know her. Sissy was always this beauty idol, and we know the Sissy movies when she was in her 20s and so on. But that movie is when she's in her 40s, and because what happens kind of to this beauty idol once you get older, and when she and how she was so fed up already with being the Empress of Austria. And it's in German, so you gotta watch it in German. But it's a beautifully shot movie. I love period pieces. It was so well done by Marie Kreutzer. So that's something I would recommend everyone watching, because it's a fun take on it. It's a really incredible movie. The soundtrack is amazing, also with French collaboration. So
I think one of my favorites is, I mean, that one for sure. I think another one is that we recently watched, and I haven't watched it before, is Bound. I don't know if you heard of that movie. Bound. It's like an independent movie. I think they made it for, I think now it would be 3 million or something like that. So it was kind of a low budget indie. They had some great actors in it. And it was all one single location. It's like this thriller crime movie between two women that fall
almost.
Yeah, exactly. Fall in love, and then this whole gangster thing is going on between two rooms, really, and they have to help and communicate each other. It's like amazing. And it was his freshman, and I'm so bad that I forgot the director's name.
There's two director brothers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like brothers. But they were someone with S, I believe. But anyways, and that was their freshman feature as well. So it was really, really impressive.
What they did,
yeah. So I think these ones are really great. I mean, there's also Goodnight Mommy, which is an amazing movie from
Austria.
Exactly. Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz. It's like a director duo from Vienna, actually. And they've done now big studio productions, but that was one of their, previous ones, and it was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
One to add to my DVD collection then. Love
that.
Yeah,
perfect. Yes, please do. Do you have to ask you now? What is one of the indie jams you recommend? Because I want to put that on my list.
It's not so much an indie, but it's one that it's made by A24.
Nice.
Which most people agree is a studio of quality.
Yeah.
But it's one that hardly anyone's seen. It's a Thai movie called A Prayer Before Dawn.
Oh, wait, what is it about? What is it about? Because it feels
so it's about this young man who in Thailand who's a Thai boxer, and he ends up being seized with a methamphetamine, which is obviously highly illegal in Thailand.
Oh, yeah.
And it's basically chronicles his time in the Bangkok Hilton, and it's all a true story.
Wow.
Yep, it's all a true story. The guy who it's based off, because I lived in Thailand for 10 years.
Oh.
The guy, and I used to do Thai boxing competitively, and I've met the guy who it was based off numerous times, and he used to go around all the boxing camps as like a cautionary tale, be like, hey, stay away from this. But what was fascinating about that movie is that a lot of it is spoken in Thai, but it's not subtitled.
Oh,
that's it's sinister. So you've got this one white dude, non-Thai guy who's in this prison, and he's not understanding what the Thais are saying about him.
Oh, wow.
And the choice they made to not subtitle what the Thais were saying was intentional. So you feel that he's basically being hunted here, for lack of a better word, but you don't understand what's being said. You just know that it's bad. And I've never seen a movie take a brave decision like that, because obviously you think foreign film, either watch it dubbed, never do that. Always watch it in its original language, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But then when you see it in, we talk about Corsage, I'm going to watch it in, German.
Yeah.
But I want the subtitles.
Yes.
But no, this movie made the decision. Is that no, feel what the character feels. I'm not going to tell you what's going on.
That's amazing. What a great choice. I wonder, which market, what the audience, what was it hitting the most? Did they, A24 is doing American usually, but did they, have a big European run? Did they have a big, Thai?
Listen, it was on the red carpet at Cannes. It got some recognition at Cannes. It didn't win the Palme d'Or or anything, but it got Cannes recognition. But it's one of those films that everyone who I've ever said, go and see it, I've got a 100% batting record. They come back and say, yo, that kicked ass. I'm like, man,
amazing.
It's a pretty easy one to find, but it's also one that people just have not watched.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put this on my list. This sounds amazing.
How is it called?
A Prayer Before Dawn. It's incredible. Also, because we're talking about, your mentor doing educational movie nights.
Yeah.
This. Everyone must see this.
Oh! The Room. Oh,
Oh my goodness.
The
It's-
worst movie ever made, and it should be watched and appreciated.
Yes. Because you know what? It's also so interesting. Because talking about these movie nights, sometimes we watch good movies, sometimes we watch bad movies, right?
For sure.
But also, even that brings you education because no filmmaker goes out and wants to make a bad movie.
No.
Everyone wants to make a good movie, right? But then it's so interesting learning about what went wrong. Was it too many chefs cooking in the kitchen? Was it the budget ran out and that's how they crumbled together the last piece? Like, what was it that made it what it is now, right? And that's education in itself. So great.
Yeah.
And I've got so much respect for Tommy Wiseau as an independent filmmaker because
Yeah.
he may be a bit deluded and think that, The Room, it's a great movie. I don't know. Maybe he really thinks he's made a great movie. And if he does, power to him. But I'll tell you what, that film's now 20 years old. People are still talking about it.
Yes, I just want to say, it became a cult classic, and that's really hard to do with an independent movie sometimes. So I 100% agree, and I have so many people.
And it turned a profit. Let's not forget it turned
those
a profit.
residuals, they're good probably.
Yeah. And let's also not forget, it got the Hollywood treatment with James Franco and Seth Rogen. They did The Disaster Artist, which was based off of the making of this movie. Like, as far as that's one you should see if you haven't, by the way. So The Disaster Artist is about how Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero came together to make The Room.
Oh my God.
It's nuts. And Tommy was actually involved in the making of The Disaster Artist to act as like, no, this is what happened type thing. So it's very accurate. That's bonkers.
That's amazing. I'll watch that too. That sounds.
So if you're a fan of The Room, check out The Disaster Artist. But top of the list should be A Prayer Before Dawn.
Okay. Perfect.
We'll do.
So last question then. Can me and my audience get a little insight into what your next projects might be?
Absolutely, yeah. We are right now in the development and funding process of our next feature. So that one is a psychological horror. So it will be maybe not for your wife, not this time, but you'll love it. It's more of a blend of, we say, as if Ari Aster directed Alice in Wonderland. It's something. We have like surrealism in it. We base stuff on Shutter Island, Alice, Black Swan. Like we have an amazing DP from Norway attached, and we'll play with a lot of practical effects and surrealism, but also it's just a really at its core, I think it's a mother-daughter story, or a mother's child story, exactly. But around it is just like a lot of really intense. Horror, or just like it should feel almost like you put an insect under your skin and it's crawling around there, and that's how the movie I think will feel. Yeah.
No better genre to be making something in at the moment.
Yes.
It's cooking.
And I think it's also right now, looking at the industry and all the changes in the big studio system, but also in independent. I think now's the time for like independent artists like ourselves, like yourself, to be like innovative. Take new chances, try new things.
Hell yeah.
Nobody knows what's quite working, and I think that's really, really exciting. I think for that next project, even though, and I think we will just call every movie an experiment, because that's what really every movie is. It's every movie that gets done is a miracle that it gets done and that actually sees the daylight. So I think also for the next one, we are like, okay, we learned all these things from this first movie. The next one will be elevated, but also now these are the things we want to learn and that we want to grow and be better at with the next one.
I mean, just look at what Coogler and B. Jordan did this year with Sinners. They made a vampire movie about blues. I'm like, cool, gimme. Yeah. Look at what Robert Eggers did in January with remaking Nosferatu.
Yes.
It's poor.
Yeah.
And look, just now Weapons.
Yeah, I didn't watch it yet. I heard so many great things about it.
Super excited.
So good. It's so good.
Like, you've already seen it? Oh my goodness. Okay.
It is not a movie you can guess. It's like your movie. It's not one you'll guess. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
They tell it from the perspective of 5 different characters, and each time a new character comes in, you're like, wait, I want to go back to that character. And then by the end of this character's you're like, no, I want to stay with this character. And then they move on, and you're like, what is going on? I can't figure out this plot, and it's great.
It's a little bit like, Blue Velvet, David Lynch. That's also one of the
course.
movies that I recently rewatched again. And it's like, when you think something happens in our, audience mind, like the complete opposite thing happens. Like, what the heck is going on? So I think those movies are the best. I'm excited about Weapons for sure, but I think that's the beauty of yes, one of my favorites. I think it's just, that's the beauty of filmmaking, when you can, when you go so far and then keep the rest up to your imagination, right?
That's it. And Blue Velvet, great reference, all-time
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to Dennis Hopper, one of the greats.
Yes.
Bianca Dilara, this has been a fantastic chat. Thank you so much for both your time. I've loved every moment of it. I've loved watching your movie. If people want to follow you both on Instagram or on social media, where can they do so?
We do have everything for the movie as well as our private one. So it's, I think, Bianca.Foscht.
No, it's just like exactly at Bianca Foscht, just the whole name. And
then for me also at Dilara_Foscht. I think that's the private ones. We also have a twin account, which you can find under Foscht Twins, or more importantly, the Day of a Lion film on Instagram as well. And there we have updates and when it's coming out, and if we have any other, promotional stuff going on, you will find that all on there.
Exactly.
Can't wait to see what you both do next. If this is your freshman project, whoo, the future's bright. Future is bright. Ladies, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Guys, if you're like me and you're fans of independent cinema, you know that you've got to go and support Day of a Lion. So once you have, comment down below what you thought of the movie, and I'd love to know what everyone thought of that ending. So do let me know, which interpretation are you going with? But for me here, Nico Lua, right here on the silver screen, dudes, long love cinema, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye for now.